Hello and welcome back to Copic in the craft room. We have another Copic coloring tutorial today. I had a specific request and I always try to honor those, so if you have any, just make sure to include them in the comments. This is a Bestie's image. It's a digital image and I'm going to forget the artist's name. She has an Etsy store, and I promise I will include it in the links underneath so you can find her if you are interested. I've been doing a series on simple coloring, kind of using 2 or 3 kind of standard blending groups in the Copic coloring system, and I had a specific request to color one of these in this fashion. Now, that being said, and I've also had some requests for real-time coloring. I'm going to try to do that with this image, but that means I'm going to need to break it into sections, so you'll only see a small part of it done today. And I'll talk through it. If it really gets too long, I might shorten it just a little bit, but I promise I will keep it at a slower pace, the coloring. I'm just going to attack the skin and the hair today. So we've got her face and kind of her shoulder area, and then these kind of sweeps of hair around her face. This is not a beginner image, and that's the one challenge. The request is to do the simple coloring with this image, and I will do that, but I want you to know that this image itself wouldn't qualify as a simple image. There's a lot more going on here in detail, which immediately makes it more of an intermediate to advanced image, with contour of face, detailing obviously in the clothing. So we've got a lot more going on here. The color combination I'm going to use on her face today is a little bit more advanced color combination. It still is a basic blending group. I have an E00, an E02, and an E04. So I'm going the wrong way, but you get the idea. It is a simple blending group in that I've got the same color family, I've got the same saturation, that first number, and then I've jumped just by 2s from E0 to 4. So I've got a nice easy group. Now that 04 is going to pop some real color in there for shading. But again, that's what I'm hoping for on a little more advanced image like this. For her eyes, I'm doing a simple B12, B14. And then for her hair, I haven't stayed with a simple coloring group. The request was brown hair, so this is a group of colors that I'm going to use on her hair. I've got a Y32, YR14, and then I've got an E25 and an E29. So not straight across the board. I've got different color families. I'm jumping around a little bit number-wise. Notice the last number, though, in this series, from a 2 to a 4 to a 5 to a 9. That does follow along with that issue of value, those last numbers getting higher as I get into that darker range. So that is playing by the rules a little bit. But, so a little bit more complicated, but this image calls for that. And so I'm going to try to break it down. We'll do her face or her skin and hair this time, and then we'll come back and work on some of those other details in a separate video. So we're going to start with the E00 and fill in all the skin area. She has some really long eyelashes, so we're tucking right underneath those. Just color right over the top of them. Make sure to go back and get her ears and come down her neck and shoulder. I'm doing small circles. I check the back. It looks like the ink's a little thin over the bottom of her face, so I do a little more. E02 is next. I'm picking a light source on the right side, so I know that the shadows are coming in from the left. They come down her left side, come down the left side of her nose. They also come a small amount in from the right. We know it's a round face. Falls back to both sides. Most of the shading down the neck comes down the left side, a little bit of a collarbone, and under the left side of that arm. E04 is next. This is a very dark color, so I use it very sparingly. Notice I don't draw a line all the way from the tip of her nose to her brow. Go down the shoulder and neck areas and the underarm on that right arm. Trying to stay really consistent with my light source. Now I'm coming back with E02 and softening that E04 It's really a beautiful skin tone. It just takes some practice getting used to it because it's so dark. E00 is next. It's going to soften it all the way out into those really nice soft skin tones that we started with. E04 on her lips. It's actually a nice lip color just as is, so I filled it in there. So I know she's got a real heavy brim on her hat, so I'm going to do a cast shadow across the top of her forehead. I'm trying E02 to start, but I decided it's just not strong enough, so I do go back with E04, and I do one underneath her chin. Notice I do not blend that back. B12 is going to start her eyes, and then just a little bit of B14 or B14 from the top edge and down just a little bit, and blending with B12. Y32 is going to be the base of her hair. Now, I am choosing not to leave a white highlight, but a lot of people like to. I'm basing the entire hair with that Y32. YR14 is next. I've changed color family. It's this nice kind of reddish earth tone a little bit, even though it's not an earth tone, it's a yellow red. It has a really pretty hair color though. Flicking from the top down and the bottom up. E25 is next. I'm trying to get way up on the tip of my brush nib to get little fine strokes at this point. I'm trying to go in the direction that the artist has drawn the hair, so it kind of curls at the bottom. Again, flicking from the top down and the bottom up. E29 is last, and this is really dark color. So I'm keeping really close next to her, the base of her cheeks and her neck. Kind of the underside of that hair is where I'm going to focus that color. It's a really powerful color. You can always add more if I want to do small amounts. I'm double checking that. It looks like the flicks are pretty strong, which I do like, but I'm going to soften them. I skip down to my YR14 and I flick from the bottom up and top down once. And then Y32 right through the center's gentle flick. And hopefully that made sense. We will continue on her. I promise I will come back and finish her up. It might be a few weeks, but she will come back. Thank you for joining me this week. If you have any questions, always post. Even if I don't get to them right that day, I promise I will come back and answer them. Have a wonderful, happy, colorful week.